What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we are going to be doing another mock draft Monday, Superflex, tight end premium PPR. You guys know the deal. If you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, you're most likely playing in a Superflex, and that's my favorite type of format, so that's the type of content we're going to keep giving you guys. But today, we have a special guest on the channel, Caleb. You guys are very familiar with him, but we're doing a 2-round Superflex tight end premium mock draft with landing spots. So hopefully you guys are excited. I'll bring Caleb in and let's draft some fantasy football teams here with the 2024 rookie class. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good, Andrew. Pumped to be able to do not only content with you, but also to be able to do this rookie Superflex mock draft. Let's be clear. We're all dying just to get into the draft time. And so I'm just super excited to kind of see what's been cooking here.
Hell yeah, man. So I gave you the 101 in this mock draft, so you'll be starting it off for us. But without further ado, should we just get into this mock draft?
Let's jump right on in.
All right, so let's just kick it off. Who are you taking here?
Yeah, at the 101, we are not doing anything different, not going to play pretty. We are taking Caleb Williams, who in this mock draft went to the 101 to the Chicago Bears. Goodbye, Justin Fields. Hello, Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, he's the real deal. And we don't really need to dive into the landing spot. We don't need to say that, oh my goodness, he's the best quarterback to come out since Patrick Mahomes. I know that he's the best prospect we've probably seen maybe since Trevor Lawrence in the quarterback landscape. But I'm taking Caleb Williams at the 101. He will be a round one startup pick by the time we get to the draft. And that makes me excited to be taking him, to be building him as my cornerstone, especially if somehow I was handed the 101. I need a foundational piece to build around. Give me some Caleb Williams at the 101.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's pretty standard in these super flex drafts. If Caleb's up there, you take Caleb. But for me, at the 102, I'm actually going to be doing something a little bit different here. I'm going to be taking Jayden Daniels, who did get picked 8th overall in the first round by the Atlanta Falcons. And to me, this is one of the best, if not the best landing spots that Jayden Daniels could have. I think the chance to play in Atlanta under two coaches stemming from that Sean McVay coaching tree, Raheem Morris and offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, that is going to be awesome for Jayden Daniels. He gets to also play around some incredible offensive talent. We obviously all know the Dynasty Fantasy Football names: Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and a top 5 offensive line according to PFF's end of season rankings here in 2023. This is a environment that a guy like Jayden Daniels is going to thrive in. He's going to find success here. So I say sign me up for this pick in Superflex leagues. I want to see him develop into a very good dual threat quarterback here at the next level. And I think that we need to remember this is a guy who put together a season with almost 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns in 2023 when he was playing at LSU.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick, Andrew. I can't blame you on Jayden Daniels in a Superflex league at the 102. Gives you that Lamar Jackson type vibes in that Atlanta Falcons offense. It's amazing. But at the 103, you just kind of like gave me the layup. You gave me Marvin Harrison Jr. You let my Ohio State fandom kind of come out here. He gets drafted pick 3 overall to the New England Patriots. So let's be clear. Pick 3 to the New England Patriots. You're like, what the heck? That is a terrible landing spot for Marvin Harrison Jr. This might actually happen. People will start saying N'Keal Harry 2.0 just because, you know, the Patriots, Bill Belichick's gone. So we don't need to worry about Bill Belichick ruining another rookie wide receiver, high-end rookie wide receiver. But as someone that watched Marvin Harrison's whole career play, he's a little bit different than his daddy. He's 6'3", 205, probably going to run somewhere in the 4.4 range in his 40-yard dash. I know a lot of people are comparing him to Jamar Chase. Some people like even me like to say Calvin Johnson. The big kind of weakness that a lot of people are worried about with Marvin Harrison Jr. is just his separation. He wins a lot of contested catches, which in college is a little bit easier to do than when you get to the NFL. You like to see a little bit of the separation monster. But he's not necessarily that. I still think he's going to work hard enough to be able to achieve that high-end draft capital that you're going to be getting him. Honestly, I'm probably still taking Marvin Harrison Jr. even wherever he lands at the 102 over Jayden Daniels, but that just might be my fanboydom. But I still like Marvin Harrison Jr. here at the 103. I think if you draft him, you know that you have a clear bona fide top 5, top 6 dynasty wide receiver. And I wouldn't be surprised by the time we get to the NFL draft if he's going to be going in that back end of the first round of startup draft.
Yeah, I don't love the landing spot in New England, and I know that's kind of part of your argument, but to me, I probably would have went with the guy that I end up going right here. So here at the 104 is where I'm going to draft Drake Maye. He got drafted number 2 overall by the Washington Commanders. So that is going to be his landing spot, and he's going to eventually be taking over from Sam Sam Howell, which he ended up doing that at North Carolina anyway. So it's funny because Sam Howell cannot get away from Drake Maye. It's like the nightmare that keeps on living. He's Freddy Krueger of Sam Howell's dreams, but he is going to be going to play under a new offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. I know that the name holds a little bit of a negative connotation. People think of Cliff Kingsbury as he got to the end of that Arizona tenure there, where he was kind of at odds there with Kyler Murray. But I do think we need to remember that he is partially responsible for helping develop Kyler Murray into this professional quarterback who did eventually ink a very long-term heavy contract extension in Arizona. So even though Cliff Kingsbury has a little bit of a negative connotation, I don't think he is a negative hire for a guy like Drake Maye. And this may be a little bit of a hot take, but I might be going out on a limb and saying that I think Drake Maye might be a little bit more pro-ready than Kyler Murray was when he was coming out of Oklahoma. So I do think this is a good fit. You put him in an offense with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson. This should be a good enough offense for Drake Maye to develop into a good NFL quarterback.
I like some Drake Maye. I think at this point, if you have the 104 in this draft and Jayden Daniels does get that high draft capital, holy smokes, you are feeling good about that. But at the 105, I think there might be maybe a slight tier break. If not, maybe this is the end of this tier with Malik Nabers, who got drafted round 1, pick 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. Malik Nabers arguably probably should have won the Biletnikoff Award. It seems like that award in college is kind of turning into not only like a popularity contest, but like almost like a 2-year award instead of a 1-year award, because Marvin Harrison Jr. probably should have won it his sophomore season, but kind of got robbed. That's besides the point. Malik Nabers, if I had to say, give me a wide receiver that was built for this type of NFL play, give me Malik Nabers, kind of almost like he was built in the lab to dominate for this NFL. So Nabers, really lightning quick agility to go along with his deep speed. Really, if you watched how he tortured defenses with Jayden Daniels, a lot of it was on slot go routes, really where he was just really getting really great separation. So I really like his top end speed as well. So Malik Nabers landing here with Kyler Murray with the weapons. I mean, Hollywood Brown clearly is not the wide receiver 1 that Kyler Murray has needed. It's more of a wide receiver 2. So slide in Malik Nabers as this efficient wide receiver 1 with Kyler Murray. I really like the landing spot for Malik Nabers, and I will be taking him at the 105 in the Superflex mock.
I like it. And we even got to remember that Hollywood Brown is a unrestricted free agent. So there's a chance that he's not even on the team, which would mean more opportunity for a guy like Malik Nabers. So something to keep in mind there as well. But moving on to the 106, I ended up taking Brock Bowers, who got drafted with the 5th overall pick by the Los Angeles Chargers. So this is a guy who's going to be heading to Los Angeles. He's going to be playing with new head coach Jim Harbaugh and offensive coordinator Greg Roman. So we got to remember, Bowers is one of the best tight ends that we have seen in the NFL draft over the last decade. He's up there with the names of like Kyle Pitts and some of these other guys that we've had, and arguably he is a better prospect than those guys as well. So it shows in the draft capital. He's getting drafted top 5 overall. I think that says a lot about how the Chargers are viewing Brock Bowers. And I know a lot of people are probably going to associate that Greg Roman name with that run-heavy offense that he had in Baltimore. And even though that may be partially true, I think we need to remember we have seen tight ends be relevant in that Greg Roman offense. Let me remind you about a guy named Mark Andrews. I think Brock Bowers is going to be the new Mark Andrews in this Greg Roman offense. He's going to be a major contributor for the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is a Chargers offense who has some aging potential cap casualties in that wide receiver room. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they obviously whiffed on Quentin Johnston. They're looking for people to be relevant in this receiving room and continue adding that electric young talent that they can keep building around Justin Herbert for the foreseeable futures. And I think that's going to be Brock Bowers. And I just like the fit for him here in Los Angeles.
Ooh, I mean, this is a deep class. We've been talking about this, Andrew. You've been hoping, you've been trading for this 2024 picks. But here at the 107, I will take Rome Odunze, who got drafted to the Chicago Bears at pick 9 in the first round. And Rome is just 6'3", super smooth, but also super quick. If we look, he was a huge deep threat. Michael Penix absolutely told those boys, go long, I'm going to throw it up to you. And so I really am excited for this landing spot in particular, because then he gets paired with Caleb Williams. We know Caleb Williams has a strong arm. We know, Caleb Williams is not scared to check it around the yard. So being able to put Rome in that offense, be the clear wide receiver 2 next to DJ Moore, you won't have to do too much out of the gate, almost would make you a little bit jealous. Justin Fields would be a little bit jealous if Rome ended up there, knowing that he never had those type of weapons that Caleb Williams would step into. I really like it. I think he would, in the right situation here with the Chicago Bears, we could be talking about him as a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And so especially landing here at the 107, You might have just gotten knocked out of the playoffs in that first round, and then you might have been disappointed a few weeks ago, but in a few months, you're going to be super happy that you got knocked out and you got to draft Rome.
Yeah, man. So moving on here to the 108, I think this is probably going to be the first pick that sparks some controversy in the comments section below. And that's because I am going with McCarthy. He was drafted round 1, pick 12 by the Denver Broncos. And like I said, it's probably going to be controversial amongst these Dynasty Fantasy Football players, because to me, it seems like the Dynasty Fantasy Football community is a lot lower on McCarthy than the actual NFL is. So we can't really ignore this type of draft capital forever. I think getting picked here in the top 12 of the NFL draft, it shows kind of the hand of the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton obviously benched Russell Wilson, doesn't want to move forward with Russell Wilson, and he's looking for his next signal caller here in Denver. He picks McCarthy in the top 12, man. It just says that we should be drafting McCarthy despite what we think. Keep in mind, this is Superflex. And I think that this would be an offense, like I said, called by Sean Payton, surrounded by players like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Javonte Williams, your guy, Greg Dulcich. I think that surrounding cast is enough to make a talented fantasy football asset in McCarthy. And it's simply a value pick for me here at that quarterback position, being a Superflex league. Anytime you can get a shot at a top 12 drafted quarterback in the NFL, I'm just going to take the shot on the starting quarterback.
Would you have taken JJ over Rome? That's a question the comments will probably want to know.
I think it's a conversation. It's definitely a conversation, but I do like the landing spot for Rome, and I think Rome is the last of that tier break for me in that top 7.
Okay. Perfect. Well, at the 109, it was kind of, I feel like there's definitely a tier break here at the 109. I went with Keon Coleman, got drafted round 1, pick 28 to the Buffalo Bills. Mr. Keon Coleman becomes Josh Allen's new Gabe Davis. And Keon Coleman is the ultimate jump catch point type receiver, ultimate alpha. Reminds me a lot of George Pickens coming out, where there was a lot of question marks around George Pickens coming out of Georgia, whether that was him coming off that torn ACL, whether that was some off the field performance issues. But Keon Coleman, he doesn't have those same type of question marks, but a lot of the same on-field question marks on what type of routes. Can he do more than just a go route? Is he more than just his ultimate physical tools that he does have? I honestly think Florida State underutilized Coleman last year. He has the physical traits, like we were saying, to be more than just a jump ball threat because of his speed and his overall competitiveness. I really think it's going to be a great fit here if he lands with the Buffalo Bills. And so for me, it was a no-brainer to know that Josh Allen's potential future wide receiver 1 was here on the board at the 109.
Yeah, man. So moving on here to the 110, I ended up going with Adonai Mitchell, who was drafted round 1, pick 32 by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this is enough to get everybody excited when you see the wide receiver being drafted first round to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we all know it's been evident all year long that the Kansas City Chiefs have been hurting in that wide receiver room. I mean, we watched the Super Bowl. It was a miracle that they were able to come back and win and throw touchdown passes to Mecole Hardman and those kinds of guys on that team. They just simply didn't have enough talented wide receivers outside of rookie Rashee Rice last year. I think adding a guy like Adonai Mitchell, it's going to be a major upgrade for this offense. There's going to be a chance that they can address this in free agency. However, they do only have about $22.6 million in cap space, so they may just opt to do it in the NFL draft. It looks like this is what they've chose to do in this mock draft. He is a perfect fit for the offense. Mitchell is a field stretcher with one of the lowest drop rates amongst all wide receiver prospects in this class, which is going to be a breath of fresh air to Patrick Mahomes after throwing to Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Justin Watson, who were just dropping passes left and right. I think Adonai Mitchell, he is going to be the T. Higgins in Kansas City for your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams.
Absolutely love it. You know, my wife spends too much on Timu, so I feel that. But maybe, who knows? Maybe T. Higgins ends up in Kansas City. We'll have to see what happens in free agency for him.
He's going to have to take a discount.
He will have to take a discount. But here at the 111, I will be taking Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, goes round 1, pick 23 to the Houston Texans to pair up with CJ Stroud. Really, there's only so many 6'4", 200-pound pass catchers who can boast a 4.4 40-yard dash. Super quick for being that tall. And really, this last year, he exploded in 2023, produced 68 receptions for 1,100 yards and 17 total touchdowns. He routinely, he uses that blend of speed and to really torture those defenses. And for me, knowing that you're getting to pair with CJ Stroud, who's one of the most accurate quarterbacks that we've ever seen out as a rookie, and maybe in the NFL as a whole, makes me super excited about Brian Thomas, knowing that you still have Tank Dell, you still have Nico Collins, but him being able to come in, slide in as that wide receiver 3 would be super exciting. because you know how electric that offense can be.
Yeah, it's a good pick. Moving on to the 112, I am going to be picking Michael Penix Jr., who lands with the Minnesota Vikings in the early second round of the NFL draft. Round 2, pick 42 is the draft capital. And I may be a little bit biased. You see the shirt, you see the hat, you see the jerseys, you see all this crap. But I do think it is one of the best rookie landing spots for quarterbacks in the NFL this year. But I think using that early second round draft capital shows that Minnesota still has plans for Michael Penix to at least get a shot as their franchise guy long term. And it's really hard for me to imagine that a quarterback being coached by Kevin O'Connell on a team that has 2 franchise tackles in Brian O'Neill, Christian Darrisaw, as well as some elite weapons in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's hard to imagine that quarterback can't at least find some NFL success. I think this is a high upside swing for me in the back half of a first round, where, again, there's some positional value at the quarterback position where you take that high upside swing. You get a difference maker here. That is the difference between championship contenders and average dynasty rosters. And if you're picking right here, getting a guy like this with this type of upside, you are a championship team that just got a championship caliber type of ceiling.
Love it. I'm just handing all the quarterbacks to you at this point, Andrew. We will enter the second round, and at the 201, I will be taking Lad McConkey. Round 2, pick 33 to the Carolina Panthers. And yes, he does get all the Cooper Cup hype. He does get all the white boy vibes. But for everyone that went to the Senior Bowl, they know exactly what type of route runner Lad is. He's super efficient in and out of cuts, in and out of his breaks. And if we were talking about Lad maybe 5-7 years ago in the dynasty space, a lot of us would not be excited. He'd probably be a back end second, maybe early third round pick just based on his measurables. But since the NFL continues to evolve, continues to change, these slot guys are becoming more and more valuable each and every season. So I really like this landing spot for him because we saw what Adam Thielen was able to do last year with Bryce Young. Bryce Young clearly needs more weapons in this offense. So being able to add Lad who can slot into that slot role where Adam Thielen can move back outside, I do like that for Lad. And why I'm taking him at the 201.
Yeah, I absolutely love Lad McConkey, so I like this fit. I like that pick. But for me, here at the 202, I am going to be taking Troy Franklin, who was picked in the second round, pick 38 by the Tennessee Titans. And I think it's pretty evident here that the Treylon Burks experiment in Tennessee has just not worked out. It hasn't been good for either side. And the Tennessee Titans are going to be in the middle of transitioning out of that Mike Vrabel area. They are going into that Brian Callahan area here in Tennessee. And honestly, this is a team that probably is going to have to put in a lot of work in free agency this year. They have an estimated $73.9 million in cap space. So they are going to be adding a lot of pieces to this team that we can't necessarily project right now on the roster. But I do think as Troy Franklin is selected to this team, I think adding a player like him, it is a very talented wide receiver that's going into a wide receiver room that desperately needs talent. Obviously, this room has DeAndre Hopkins, who is going to be in the last year of his deal. He's 32 years old. He's got guys behind him like Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips. So up next would be Franklin. He will have the opportunity to produce a lot for fantasy football right away in an offense that's going to need him. And he is a speedy route runner that really does excel against man coverage. So he should complement DeAndre Hopkins really well here in Tennessee.
At pick 203, I will be taking Xavier Worthy, who went round 2, pick 39 to the New York Giants. And Xavier Worthy, a lot to be said about his college career. Coming out of Texas, his freshman season, he had a 30% target share and was talked about as the potential wide receiver 1 of this class back then. Clearly, that did not happen, and that's not the case. 28% in his sophomore year, 19.1% of target share his junior season. And when we look at Xavier Worthy overall, a lot of it had to do with, of course, his 4.29 40-yard dash time that he had in high school. So assuming that he can run that same type of blazing speed, we'd be super excited for him. Maybe that bumps him up the draft boards. But like I said, he is estimated to be the second round pick, and landing with the Giants, who have a bevy of slot guys, but not enough outside X type wide receivers. This would be a really great role for him. I don't know necessarily who the quarterback's going to be. We assume it's still going to be Daniel Jones with that huge contract, but that necessarily hasn't played out. Saquon Barkley, we're still going to have to see where he resigns to, if he resigns with the Giants, if he signs somewhere else. But Xavier Worthy here, you got to take that upside, that ultimate game-breaking speed, because we do see that speed does win on the NFL level. If you can get one of these guys in the second round, feel like it's great value for you.
Absolutely. And here at the 204, I am going to be taking Bo Nix. He got drafted round 2, pick 34 to the New England Patriots. And I have it here in my notes. I said, I don't know why Caleb continues to pass on all of these starting quarterbacks in a Superflex draft, but I will continue to keep taking the value. And I know Bo Nix, he isn't the flashiest of picks or players. And in New England, it's probably not the fanciest of landing spots. We don't get very excited about the New England Patriots as a landing spot. But let's not forget, in this mock draft, in the first round, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. as their wide receiver one. So Bo Nix, he is going to be throwing to a very talented wide receiver, a guy that we have deemed as generational. So if anybody is going to elevate the play of Bo Nix, it's got to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So I do think that is going to be a good thing for Bo Nix to start his career. I'm not sure whether or not Bo Nix is really an upgrade to what they currently have in Mac Jones. But like I've said before, if you start to hit on these quarterbacks in your rookie drafts, you really will never be upset with that pick, especially in a type of league like this where quarterback is important and you can just keep taking shots on these starting quarterbacks because eventually one of them is going to hit. And that's why I like Bo Nix here at the 204.
I think I just continue to let you have the quarterbacks because Mr. Mayo Man, Will Levis, let me down. I was so high on him in the pre-draft process. Doesn't get drafted in the first round. So then I kind of push him down my rankings and all of a sudden, boom, we saw what he was able to do this year. So maybe I need to reevaluate, but I'll let you have all the quarterbacks in this mock, Andrew. Here at the 205, I will be taking Jonathon Brooks, running back out of the University of Texas, round 2, pick 58 to the Green Bay Packers. And I think this is kind of crazy. I think this is a testament to this draft class when you're able to take a running back that got round 2 draft capital in the second round. That's kind of crazy to say, but Jonathon Brooks kind of has the full bell cow type of work role that you'd want to see. Really good at breaking tackles, really good just rushing in between the tackles, which based on what we've seen with the Green Bay Packers, they have been able to use a ton. He's also had a ton of explosives at the University of Texas because he has a ton of launch speed. And I really like his cutback vision. I think that's one of the most underrated parts of his game. We'll have to see if he actually what his 40-yard dash, what his metrics come out to be. But we do like that. We know that he's 6 foot, that he's over that 200-pound threshold. I know a lot of people were upset about Jahmyr Gibbs last year. Won't have to worry about that weight with Jonathon Brooks. Probably will end up being around 210 pounds. I really like Jonathon Brooks here with the Green Bay Packers because AJ Dillon is going to be a free agent, so he can instantly slide into that AJ Dillon role. The Green Bay Packers have been really good about splitting, having that running back by committee, so he will definitely be getting opportunity right off the jump. Aaron Jones continues to get older. We see what Jordan Love is becoming, so I'm really excited about Jonathon Brooks in this offense, and I will easily take a second-round running back at the 205.
Yeah, I like it. Moving on to the 206, I am going to be taking Jatavian Sanders, round 2, pick 49 as the draft capital. He goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, and to me, the Bengals, they're starting to have to pay a lot of these stars that they drafted back in 2020 and 2021. So they are having to be a little bit more cautious about the cap space, some of the spending that they have. We know Burrow has received a large contract extension. Jamar Chase, he's next up. He's going to get one as well. So they are going to have to start being cautious. And that leaves this free agency period where they're going to have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Both of these guys are going to be unrestricted free agents. And I know he wasn't necessarily a big contributor for them in 2023, but so was Irv Smith Jr. So I expect at least 2 of these guys to be gone, maybe even all 3. It's going to be crazy if they lose all 3. But that is kind of the route that I expect the Cincinnati Bengals to go with this offseason. You add a guy like this who has the athletic profile. He's very young. He can do it all. It's another weapon for Joe Burrow. They're going to be getting Jatavian on a rookie contract, which obviously helps with that cap issue that they are having. This is a tight end premium format as well. So getting that landing spot, being paired with Joe Burrow, having the opportunity right away, a player as talented as Sanders, I think this is a recipe for a player that could be receiving somewhere around top 12 dynasty tight end hype here in 2024 and beyond if he is a member of the Cincinnati Bengals.
I love that pick for you, Andrew. I love, I'm a Bengals fan, so would love to see a nice athletic tight end be drafted there. At the 207, I will be taking Bucky Irving, round 3, pick 70 to the Giants. So, like I said, we don't know what's happening with Saquon this offseason. So if Bucky gets drafted as the bell cow, which I don't necessarily think he's built like that. When I look at him, he kind of reminds me a ton of Tajay Spears coming out last year. Even if Saquon comes back, I still think Bucky Irving is a great pick here. Just assuming with what all we talked about, you got Daniel Jones who will be coming off of injury. With that, they will be likely to run the ball a lot more next season. There's a lot just of weapon questions that are happening with the Giants as we speak. So just being able to get a super athletic guy that can run in between the tackles, but also really does well as a scat back, being able to catch those screens out of the backfield makes me super excited. Had a great year at Oregon with 12 total touchdowns this last year. So give me some Bucky Irving here. I'm a little bit upset because I thought I was going to get a quick one by you, but you did not let me pass that quick one by you.
Yeah, man, I'm going to be sticking with the running backs here. Going at the 208, I take Braelon Allen out of Wisconsin. He got drafted round 3, pick 93 by the Baltimore Ravens. And I think Braelon Allen is becoming one of the more polarizing prospects in 2024. It seems like, at least over on X. So whatever it's worth, over there, he seems to be polarizing. Now, getting a landing spot like this here in Baltimore, I think is going to be huge for a player like Braelon Allen. This is a guy who rushed for nearly 3,500 yards and scored 35 touchdowns in 35 games in his collegiate career. If you're keeping track at home, that's 100 yards and 1 touchdown per game for 3 years straight for Braelon Allen. So he's an absolute baller. He's young as hell too. He's going to be one of the youngest, if not the youngest running back prospect in this class. He would find himself in the perfect rushing offense here in Baltimore. And this is an offense that's likely going to be losing J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. Both of these guys are unrestricted free agents. So they're going to need a running back who's going to be able to come in and take over this backfield. Day 2 draft capital is what we want for our running backs in today's NFL. We've shown that that has been the perfect balance of upside and value from a NFL draft pick perspective. The fit is perfect. More than happy taking Braelon Allen here at the 208. And I think it's a great player that could potentially give you some very high touchdown numbers in this offense.
Yeah, I was upset when you sent that text through. I said thought I was going to be able to get a quick one by getting Bucky, and then at the 209 getting Braelon, but no, you just absolutely threw it out the window. I think if I could go back and redo it, I might take Braelon Allen ahead of Bucky, but just kind of depends. I like the landing spot for Bucky. But at the 209, I will be taking Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. He went round 2, pick 43 to the Atlanta Falcons, sliding in very nicely with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts, and earlier with Jayden Daniels in this draft. So someone that watches the Buckeyes a lot, Malachi Corley came in as a sophomore and absolutely demolished us in the horseshoe. My man looked exactly like Deebo Samuel, was catching passes, catching slants, catching screens, everything, making our cornerbacks look absolutely ridiculous. But not only that, he continued to have a great college career. But when we look at what he did at the Senior Bowl, my man was a man among boys, just absolutely dominant, has great hands, fantastic after the catch. Like I said, really reminds me of Deebo Samuel in the way that he plays in that regard. And I think he could definitely be used similarly in the NFL. I know Arthur Smith is no longer with the Atlanta Falcons, so that makes us feel really good about these pass catchers. So I'm going to have a lot of optimism here with taking Malachi Corley, and I really like this hit for him.
Yeah, man. Moving on to the 210, I am still sticking at that running back position. I take Blake Corum, who was drafted round 3, pick 87 by the Dallas Cowboys, and I think this is a great value pick here for the Dallas Cowboys when they get a player like Blake Corum here. You assume adding Corum in the 3rd round of the NFL draft means that they chose to move on from Tony Pollard, who is due for an extension, but he's coming off of a very disappointing season in 2023. So Dallas is rumored to be extending Dak Prescott. It's almost certain and almost guaranteed that they will be extending CeeDee Lamb here soon. So getting Blake Corum on a rookie contract does give them talent and value at a position where you're not necessarily looking to spend a bunch of money. So Corum, he put together a very impressive resume during his time in Michigan. Obviously, if you look at the box scores, you look at the statistics that he put together, you'll see the touchdown numbers and you'll say, holy hell, this man was basically living in the end zone, put a tent in there and just slept there every goddamn Saturday night. And that's what Blake Corum did, man. So I think his game is going to translate very well into this Dallas offense under head coach Mike McCarthy. And it's a good value pick for the Dallas Cowboys as an NFL team and a good value pick for your Dynasty Fantasy Football rosters.
I had to laugh through the pain as you were talking about him living in a tent in the end zone, because that's what he was doing to my Buckeyes. So like the dagger just kept diving deeper and deeper into the heart. But I like that pick for you a lot. I over here at the 211, I'll pick another Michigan man, Roman Wilson, round 2, pick 62 to the Baltimore Ravens. I hate talking about Michigan players, but here we go. The thing with Roman is he's just a super reliable wide receiver. So he's not only a slot option. He'll probably be used mostly in the slot in the NFL. He definitely has his athletic limitations, but kind of talking about Lad, like he's a super elite route runner, and that was on a full-on display at the Senior Bowl. So really the Senior Bowl, not only he didn't really have this great of a year this year compared to him as a sophomore, but if we look overall, they won the chip. He came back, worked out for him. But going forward with the Baltimore Ravens, I'm really excited to see what Roman Wilson, if he does land there, what that would do for Lamar Jackson, with Zay Flowers, with Mark Andrews. They just need more pass catching options to surround Lamar, because we can think of the days where there was absolutely zero weapons for Lamar to throw to. But adding someone like Roman, where he wouldn't have to be relied on heavily, but would be able to develop in the NFL, I think is a really great late round shot for me here in the back end of the segment.
Yeah, I like Roman Wilson. He really stood out at the Senior Bowl. Definitely a player that's going to be rising up draft boards as people get their eyes on him. But here at the 212, man, there are so many different directions that I could have went with this last pick. There's still a lot of good players on the board, but no player intrigued me the way that Spencer Rattler did, coming off the board round 3, pick 77 to the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's just obvious that even though the third round draft capital isn't necessarily really anything worth celebrating about, especially for a quarterback in the NFL, it is good enough that it made me at least raise my eyebrows. And Rattler, speaking of the Senior Bowl, is coming off of a very good week at the Reese's Senior Bowl. He ended up going home at the end of the week with that MVP trophy. And I think that we forget just how great Spencer Rattler was as a prospect coming into college when he was being recruited by Oklahoma. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him. And he did get replaced by Caleb Williams, who was the 101 in this class. So maybe not as big of a knock as we should be giving Spencer Rattler to be replaced by a guy as talented as Caleb Williams. But he did go over to South Carolina, played a couple seasons over there. I think he showed out when he was in South Carolina, put together a pretty good piece of film, some good statistical numbers over there at South Carolina. And I think Rattler going to the Las Vegas Raiders, again, even though I said it's just third round draft capital, I think he will have a shot to compete and potentially win this starting job against Aiden O'Connell in training camp during the 2024 season. And like I said, I like drafting the upside at the quarterback position in the Superflex leagues, and getting a guy who was as highly touted as Spencer Rattler coming into college here, where he gets a shot to be an NFL starter and proved that he was good amongst other NFL prospects at the Senior Bowl, just felt like a very high ceiling kind of swing for me at the end of the second round.
No, I like that pick a lot, Andrew. I think he's been definitely debated on Twitter over the last week, 2 weeks, a ton. But you got to remember what type of prospect he was coming into college. And yes, he didn't live up to that hype, but those traits didn't go away. The elite athleticism, the powerful arm that he has, those didn't go away. So I like that pick for you.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Caleb. That was a 2-round Superflex tight end premium rookie mock draft for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support. Also, make sure you are subscribing to this channel and hitting that notification bell. That way you guys never miss a future upload. And also make sure you guys are going over and subscribing to Caleb's channel as well to get some more fantasy football content in your subscription feed, because we can never get enough fantasy content. So make sure you're subscribed to Caleb. And last but not least, guys, make sure you go join our Discord. We do have a free Discord that is linked in the description. We're helping people with their Dynasty fantasy football teams 24/7, 365, and I'd love to have you guys be a part of the community. So make sure you go join that free Discord. Like I said, it's free, so there is no risk in doing that. With all that being said, Caleb, thank you again, but we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.